Today, Human Rights Watch and the UN before that came out with a report saying there's widespread, as they call it, death and dying in the detention centers since the uprising in 2011. Is there any truth to that?
If you want to verify the credibility of those reports, to say that they're not politicized, they're not talking about one side of the story. You mentioned the shelling of Damascus 3 days ago, and that happened every few days, and killing many civilians, innocent civilians. Did they mention anything about the reports? You have many evidence that's been published by the terrorists in the internet, photos, videos about torturing, about killing, about beheading. Did they mention those stories?
So it's one-sided. Even the UN?
Yeah, definitely, it's politicized. Even the UN is controlled by the United States, and the United States is against Syria. This is the reality. Everybody knows.
But you are part of the UN. Syria is part of the UN family.
Yeah, but the UN is a biased institution because it's under the control of the United States and its allies.
And so you say reports about widespread torture, human rights violations after 2011, those are biased, not true.
They are based on stories. Stories, you can pay anyone to tell you any story. Like the Qatari is doing this, they publish many reports financed by the Qatari, by the Saudi. This means nothing. You want to make investigations, come to Syria. You have the reality.
Yeah, they say it's difficult to come to Syria and do independent investigation.
It's not difficult. You've been here, you are here, so anyone could do the same. Otherwise, if it's difficult for them to come, it's going to be difficult for them to judge the situation and to make reports.
Our government is next month deciding whether or not they will start bombing in your airspace as well, bombing ISIS targets in Syria. As they are debating this, what would you tell them?
This is illegal. This is against the international law. We are a sovereign country. If you are serious about fighting terrorism, what the obstacle for that government to call the Syrian government to say, let's cooperate in fighting terrorism? Right. The only obstacle is that the Western policy today towards Syria, that we need to isolate this state, that president, so we cannot deal with him. Right. Okay, you cannot reach anything. Right.
So you say it's illegal if the Dutch would bomb. They should ask your permission? That's what you're saying?
The government permission.
Have they ever been in touch with you about any of this?
No.
The Netherlands are also saying if there should be sustainable peace in Syria, that has to be without you. There might be a transitional period, but in the end it can only be without you. What would you say to a statement like that?
If you accept as a Netherlands citizen that somebody in Syria would tell you who's going to be your prime minister or not, we will accept it. But you don't accept it, and we don't accept it. As you say, we are a sovereign country. Whether they have good president or bad president, this is a Syrian issue. It's not European. Right. The Europeans has nothing to do with such a thing. That's why we don't respond. We don't care about it.
Right. Yeah, you don't care about what, in this case, the Dutch would say.
This is Syrian issue. The Syrian people would say who's going to stay or not. If the Syrian people doesn't want me to stay, I have to leave right away.
Internationally, the United States always said President Assad has to go. Even yesterday, Secretary Kerry said, well, maybe not immediately, and we're not looking for regime change. Even the French are now saying the president may be part of a solution. Your luck seems to be changing.
Thank you for them to say that. I was packing my luggage. I had to leave. Now I can stay. We never care about whatever they say. They've been saying the same for 4 years now. Right. Did anything change regarding that issue? Nothing. So this is Syrian issue. Whether it's Obama or United States or Europe or any country, we don't care about it. As long as the Syrians want this president or any other president to be in power, he will be there. So to say that he's leaving now or leaving in 6 months or 6 years, it's not their business, very simply.
Okay, but it might help in negotiation, some sort of peace plan. Their attitude towards you.
This is another issue that depends on the problem that we've had in Syria. It has many aspects. What the relation between this president or any other president to be in power and ISIS and Al-Nusra and Al-Qaeda coming to Syria and terrorists killing and beheading. Right. There's no relation. So this is just to mislead the public opinion, just to say that the problem in Syria is the president. So who's more important, the president or the country? Of course, the answer is the country, so the president has to leave. Right. So this is the equation that they try to promote. Right. The only equation for the president is the public opinion in his country, like your country, like any other country. Other than this, if they are serious in solving the problem in Syria, every European official just trying to deliver homilies that could be suitable for church and for mosque, not for politicians, They have to go and work to stop the flood and the flowing of terrorists and the money and logistic supports, armament through Turkey. That's what they have to do.
So Turkey is the key in all of this.
Of course, this is the logistical key. Of course, Saudi Arabia is the other key with their money and their ideology.
One more question about Holland and our neighboring country, Belgium. Hundreds of wannabe jihadis come here to Syria. Why are they coming here? What are they looking for?
The most important question, why did you have them in Europe? Coming, that's natural. When you have chaos, when Syria has been turned into a hotbed for terrorism because Europe and Turkey and Saudi Arabia and Qatar and those countries supported terrorists in different ways, of course you're going to have chaos and there's going to be an excess for terrorism. That's natural for this fertile soil to attract terrorists from the rest of the world. But the question, why did you have them in Europe? You didn't deal with the terrorism in a realistic base.
So what did Europe do wrong in dealing with them?
I think it's about two things, if you ask me about why this my question. First of all, the European government didn't do their job to integrate those people in their society. Okay. They lived in a ghetto. When you live in a ghetto, you're going to be extremist. The second one, many European officials have sold their values for the petrodollar, and they allowed the Wahhabi, Saudi institutions to pay money and to bring this dark and this extremist ideology to Europe. And that's why now you are exporting terrorists to us. No, we don't export. Actually, they came to Syria and then they go back to Europe.
They come back to us.
Yeah. And the three criminals who committed the attacks in Paris, all of them lived in Europe, Belgium and France and others. They didn't live in Syria.
One could say that 4 years ago, there was a step in that process of people rising up, and there was a brutal crackdown.
How many? How many rised up? Do you have a number? The majority of the number in one day in Syria at the beginning of the crisis was 130,000. Let's make them double, 300. Right. Double them again, 600,000. It's nothing out of 24 million.
So you say nobody really has risen up against you during those days?
No, you have, of course, but it was a mixture between people who really wanted to demonstrate against the political system that they don't believe in. You have people who's been paid by Qatar in order to demonstrate for the propaganda, and you have the terrorists who's been infiltrating those demonstrations in order to kill the policeman in order to retaliate. That's what happened in the first week of the...
So that's only what happened. The police retaliated on killings that were done from within the group that was protesting.
The first week we had many policemen being killed by the demonstrators. Who are they? Yeah. Peaceful demonstrators? Of course you have machine guns and you have everything from the very beginning. So that's what happened. Anyway, the president, if he wants to leave, he will leave through the constitution and ballot box. And if he wants to come, he will come through the constitution and the ballot box. And both will reflect the public opinion.
How long will this take before it's resolved?
If the responsible countries take actions against the flood and the flowing of the terrorists and the logistic supports, I can guarantee that it will take less than 1 year.
Less than 1 year?
Less than 1 year. But the problem that they still supporting them on a daily basis more and more in order to make it more messy and to put obstacles in front of any solution, because they want the solution, what they call the political solution, to be ended with the changing this state, getting rid of this president or depose him, and so on. So that's why it will drag on.
So if it were without outside influence, it would be done in 1 year?
Definitely, for one reason, because the terrorists in Syria, they don't have the social incubators yet. That's why we're not worried about them.
Mr. President, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming to Damascus.
Thank you.